welcome back to Freight Lane TV, and today you join me with a Subaru Impreza. So let's talk about the outside of it. It is a World Rally Blue, and I think is generally the best colour for these cars. They do other colours, I think they do a black, a white, but this blue is the best colour by far. It goes perfectly well with these, I'll show you down here, these gold wheels, and they, what we believe, are Pro 5 alloys painted in the gold, and the blue and gold go perfectly well together. I think any Subaru should be blue and gold. So tyres on these are Yokohamas. They are semi-slicks, perfectly road legal for road and track use, and they grip very, very well. So exhaust wise, we've got a 3.5 inch back from the manifold and a 4.5 inch tip, and we're talking Focus RS size tips there. That is huge. So this is a 2001 Impreza. They originally did what was the first classic one, which included the P1. They did the second gen, which this one is a bug eye version. After that, they did a blob eye version, which is a third gen. And then finally they did the Hawkeye, which is the fourth generation of a Subaru. So it's all different kind of looks. They've never really been the same. You know, they've always changed it up a little bit. But this one also has the STR headlights in, which I think really set off quite nicely. Right, so let's start with the thing that every Subaru person wants to know about. So this has a GFB recert valve. Now this one doesn't go to the atmosphere, this one goes straight into inlet. We have Mitsubishi intake pipes there, which look very, very nice. We have a Mitsubishi radiator. Now, this is an upgraded radiator. They come for around £350 to £400, and it has a low temp thermostat in it as well. So also this one has had an aircon delete, and today's hot weather is not doing me any justice. It also has a oil catch can header tank with a catch can there, a Zero Sports inlet pipe with a pipe across panel filter. So one thing I've found about this, I've only drove it for half hour, 40 minutes or so. The clutch is heavy, I'm not gonna lie, it's heavy. The throttle is heavy, but it's cable, it's not electronic, you know. Electronic throttles are a lot lighter. But once you get used to that clutch, it's so easy to drive. Like, I've literally jumped in it and it's been a breeze to drive. It's not like, you know, some cars take a while to get used to driving, whereas this, just jump in. Once you get used to that clutch and you get used to the throttle, it's a real pleasure to drive. Real pleasure to drive. One thing you've got to find with these Subarus is, you know, I had a high-powered Fiesta, and that was on boost pretty early, and the boost was, you know, it weren't very laggy. I've driven an Evo, and after driving this, what you've got to remember about these sort of cars is they're a driver's car. I think they're a driver's car there. You've got to rev them, and you've got to be in the right rev range to get on the power. You know, I'm going around a bend now and I'm in third, nothing, 4,000, and there's the power. You know, if you spend a bit of time with this sort of car and you really get to learn how to drive it properly, you'll love it. You'll absolutely love it. You know, you find a good B road in the right gear, drove this car, I was an Evo, you know, I always liked an Evo. Evo was the car I liked, and I think with these sort of cars, you either like them or you don't. You're either an Evo person or you're a Subaru person. But after driving one of these, it changes your mind a little bit. You've got to drive both. People are going to have their own opinions, but I think they're both very, very good cars. Once you learn, like I say earlier, once you learn how to drive them and in the right gear at the right time, they're a perfect car. This does have the Tyne suspension on, and I don't think it's very hard. It's, you know, I've driven cars with coilovers and they can be a bit very, you know, very hard to, and you feel every little bump. I mean, I'm not going to turn around and say you don't feel every bump on this, because you do, but it's not a aggressive suspension. And when you are bead bashing it around the roads, the rear anti-roll bar and the poly bush all round just sets it up really well. And with the tyres set up on this as well, it's just perfect. What you have got to remember with these cars is they ain't cheap to run. I have asked him how much it costs to run. He wouldn't give me an exact figure because he probably doesn't want his girlfriend to know. But you don't buy a car like this to go and do a 500 mile run in it. It's one of these cars, it sits in the garage. You get out on the weekend after you're driving your Audi diesel all week and you go and kick its head in for the weekend. It's a fun driver's car. So I'm going to start with the negative bits about this because it's such a good car. Let's start with the bad bits first, right? So if you're going to buy one, the things that I've found out that are common on them, head gaskets are common on these. These are 2 litre turbos. They did the 2.5 in the Hawk, but the phase 1 and the phase 2, which phase 2 is this one, is the 2 litre turbo. So head gaskets are quite common on them. Bottom ends are apparently quite common on them as well. Gearboxes, watch out for as well. They're sort of the things you want to look out for. They do have issues with rust, but as you can see with this one, there ain't any rust on it. It's in very, very good condition. It's a car that's been it's only done 75,000 miles, and you can tell it's been very well looked after. So do look out for them sort of things. Now tax, about £300 a year, which I don't think was too bad. The Focus I did last week is around the same sort of price. You know, 2 very different cars, but tax brands around the sort of same price. Insurance, now this is the thing that everyone wants to know about. The lad who owns this is 25 years old, clean licence, everything like that. He had a specialist insurance. He pays £1,000 for a year. Now, it's a Subaru Impreza. It's not a Vauxhall Corsa. Do you know what I mean? It's a well-known car, high-powered car. This one, about 216 horsepower. I think £1,000 a year for a 25-year-old lad, I don't think is bad for insurance. So let's talk about maintenance. Every car needs maintaining, oils. So oil filter, fuel filter, and oil. Readily available at places like Euro Car Parts, or you know, them sort of dealers for parts. They're not expensive, but if you're going to own a car like this, I've owned high power cars, put decent oil in it. You know, don't put your cheap rubbish in it. You have a car like this, it needs to have good oils. Miller's oil is normally the best oil for this sort of stuff. You know, everything's readily available for parts. Pads, you know, that sort of stuff becomes a little bit pricey. If you want decent pads, don't buy a car like this and put rubbish pads in it. There's just no point. EBC pads, you'll probably pay around 200 quid for what I know for a set of pads for it. Yeah, okay, it's expensive, but you don't want to be tanking it around the B roads in this sort of car and brakes not being able to put up with it. Buy decent brakes, buy decent stuff for a car like this. Keep it well maintained. Keep it, I think he services it every 5,000 miles. Keep it maintained, keep it serviced, get a timing belts done with, and they'll last forever. These cars weren't made to break if you don't look after them. They'll break if you don't look after them. Keep them maintained, keep them serviced properly, get decent brakes and look after them. These are becoming a classic. Where I live, I don't see many of them. Like I said earlier, if you're going to buy a car like this, buy a good one. Like I said, look for head gaskets, gearboxes, and find a car and spend the money on one that's been looked after. Because, you know, where I live, you don't see many of this sort of things around. Find one that not necessarily been garaged, you know, it's been used, because in the day that's what they made it before, but you know, get one that's been serviced regularly, it's got a good service history and it's been well maintained, and you'll love it. I'm sure it will last forever. You know, they're a lovely car, They're becoming a bit of a classic now. So find yourself a good one. Find one that's been sold as well. Find yourself some back rows and go and kick its head in, and trust me, it'll be the best thing you ever do. So thank you again for watching Freight Lane TV. Obviously this is something different again, another car. If you're interested in seeing more of it, drop me a message, and if you're interested in doing some reviews, I'm more than happy to do something a little bit interesting. Any commercial stuff, obviously, drop me a message. But thanks again for watching, really appreciate it. If you could like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.